I wanted to talk to you a little bit about medical cannabis first. I was in a car accident in July of 1998. I was hit by a drunk driver. I was paralyzed from the waist down. I was told I would never walk again and that I needed to get used to it. They put me on a bunch of different narcotics and told me that I had to stop taking myself out of the wheelchair, that I was an incorrigible patient. I was hard to deal with because I wanted to get off the drugs and I wanted to walk again. I called my old friend, who I call Dad now, Eddie Lepp, in California, and told him that they said I couldn't walk again. And he said that was bullshit. And he got me out to California. And he put me on full extract cannabis oil. And I started taking that every day. And my nerves started growing back in my back. He took me back to the hospitals in California. And they told me to stop trying to walk and to get used to it, that they were going to take me off the pills and put a morphine pump in my back so that they could control me, and told me I needed to quit bruising up my body and quit trying to walk. Eddie again said, bullshit. He contacted doctors in Switzerland, and I arranged to go to Switzerland where I had a surgery that they wouldn't allow me to have in the United States. I had a dorsal column stimulator implanted in my back, and it sent an electronic current up and down my legs so I could feel an electricity current when I'd hit the floor so I could learn to walk all over again. Eddie again brought me up to the camp, what he called the healing fields, and I couldn't afford it. I didn't have insurance. He let me live there. He moved my whole family there. He gave me medicine every day, and I started to walk. My nerves grew back together, and I was cured. Eddie was then arrested for growing medical marijuana for 7,500 patients in California. He beat it the first time in the state of California. And the feds came back and charged him. And now Eddie's sitting in jail in federal prison. He's been there for 6 years. He was sentenced to 10 years. He's very sick. We just found out today he was in the hole. I couldn't talk to him for a week and get my speech ready and tell you what was going on with him because they put Eddie in solitary confinement. Why? Because Eddie has cancer in his liver, and they're not treating him. They put him in there for 18 hours without water or food, and he's dying in there, and they're not letting him out of prison. And since Eddie's been in jail, out of the 7,500 people that Eddie Lepp helped, 19 people have put money on his books. 19 people. He helped 7,500 people. Out of those 19 people, 4 of them were my staff and my friends. So 15 people found it out of their heart to put a little bit of money on Eddie Lepp's book. You can't get anything in jail unless you have money on your books. You can't call your family. You can't write them a letter. You can't get an aspirin. You can't get a mattress pad. You are treated like an animal. They make you work. You get cents on your books. And if you get sick, they take it away from you. If you're accused of anything, it gets taken away from you. So Jeremy and I started the Cannabis Farmers Markets, and we started a prison outreach center. And we found Kristin, Flor, whose dad died in prison. I carry his ashes with me to give me strength because he was killed in federal prison for doing something that was legal. He was supplying medical marijuana to patients. We need more people out there to be the change we want to see in other people. If you don't start acting like that change, there will not be a fucking change. You need to start remembering people. Write letters. Write your congressman. When you're sitting there on Facebook late at night smoking weed, write to your senators. Write to your congressmen. Write to people in jail. Go to Core Links and ask to fucking converse with some of these people. Your friends that get arrested, don't fucking forget them. You guys want to smoke weed? We do too. But it's also a great medicine. I'm going to introduce you to my very best friend, Kristin Flor, whose dad died in prison, whose mom's still in prison. She's my prison outreach coordinator. She writes to our plant prisoners. She writes to their families. She does raffles and puts money on their books. We donate our own money and time, and we do as much as we can for them. We're trying to be the change we want to see in other people, and we're asking for your help. We started a Human Solution chapter, and we need you. Please give it up for my very best friend whose parents died for our rights, Kristin Flor.
Thank you, Kitty. Hi, you guys. My name is Kristin Flor. My dad's name is Richard Flor. He co-owned a company in Montana called Montana Cannabis. They followed all the state laws that everybody voted for in Montana. However, our federal government, they say that it's still federally illegal and it's a Schedule I drug, and they compare it to heroin. So, despite the laws that we vote for, despite our state laws, despite the vote of the people, they cross over them and they aggressively raid our establishments. They took out 5 of my dad's dispensaries in 2011, and in one day they took out 26 dispensaries across Montana, ruining their state law. My dad was sentenced to 5 years in prison by an 83-year-old judge because marijuana is federally illegal. He was sent to a medical facility, but he never made it. He sat in general population in a private prison for 4 months. Like Eddie Lipp is right now, suffering in prison. My dad, they did that to my father. My father died, he was on 32 different medicines. And when my dad went to jail, he was on 32 medicines. And when he died, he was only on 3. If he couldn't make it to pill call, he didn't get his medicine. And when my dad died, he died with broken bones because they said he had dementia. So he'd rock back and forth and hit the floor and bust his bones, and they just let him lay there for days in prison. When my dad died, he died with 8 broken bones. When my dad died, he had 2 major heart attacks when they were transporting him. They just let him lay there to die, but he wouldn't die, so they called me on the phone and said, Kristin, you need to come fly out to Las Vegas. Your dad's been here, and we've had to bring him back to life twice. So I had to rush out to Las Vegas. Come to find out, those 2 major heart attacks is not what killed him. The whole time he was in jail, he was suffering from colon cancer, undiagnosed colon cancer. So when he laid in prison for those 4 months and he told the nurses he was hurting, they didn't care. They just let him lay there to die. They accused him of faking it. And with all my dad's broken bones, they wouldn't even give him a wheelchair or a walker to walk around in. Or pain medication. So I rushed out to Las Vegas and I took my father off the life support. The doctors told me that he just was not going to make it anymore.
And they would not let his wife out of jail, his mother.
Yeah, my mom. Yeah. Well, so after I took my dad off of the life support, he was fighting all up until the very end. I had to kiss him goodbye until his body turned cold. And the very next morning when my mom called me, I had to tell her that we had to take my dad off life support. And she was in prison. She just worked for the company. She followed all the state laws and got sentenced to 2 years in prison. So why they tormented my dad? My mom sat in prison and worried about him. She wasn't even able to communicate with him because the wardens wouldn't allow them to even write each other letters. But so for 37 years of their marriage, they had to go for the last 4 months without even talking to each other. And my mom is still in prison. She gets out in October, and they wouldn't even let her out to say goodbye to my dad or have a funeral. So since my dad's died, I feel real compassionate for our caregivers who are in prison. I have these flyers here, and they have addresses to Luke Scamarzo and Ricardo Ruiz Montes, who are spending 18 and 20-year sentences in prison. They followed all the state laws in California, and they even took their case to trial, but they wouldn't hear state law in federal court. I have Eddie Lipp's address here, who's very sick, and he could really use a few cards and letters of support. Aaron Sandusky, who took his case to trial. My dad's business partner, Chris Williams, his address is on here, and he said he was going to take it to trial and fight for his rights, and the jury didn't even know he was a caregiver or how many people he helped. And so we want to write him a letter too, and my mom's address is on here. Jason Nelson's, and in Michigan, a lot of bad things are happening out there to the Duvall family, same thing that happened to my family, and I have their addresses here as well. So please see me for a flyer. I'm a prison outreach coordinator at Cannabis Farmers Market, so you can come see me there as well. And we can figure out how you can join the Human Solution. Thank you.
I want to remind all of you, it just takes a little bit of effort. You guys could be the next person to change the laws. You guys could be the person that keeps the next person out of jail. You could make a difference. To be an activist, you have to be active. You can't just be a simple man. You can't sit on the couch. Couch potato time is over. This is a legal state. We can be the voice of the nation. Let's be the change we want to see in other people. You guys can do it. I know you can. Thank you. I'm going to give you to the next activist. Make sure you come and see us at the Cannabis Farmers Markets. We're moving to Seattle, and there's a lot of great things you can do. Find us on Facebook. You guys are great. Thanks.